Beauty and the Beast is an absolutely beloved classic of Disney's animated catalog. It was the first animated movie to ever be nominated for Best Picture, so it should come to absolutely no surprise that Disney were very keen on doing a live-action remake, which of course we got in 2017. But we nearly got a very different version of a live-action Beauty and the Beast that actually would have been made by Warner Brothers and been directed by Guillermo Del Toro. So what if we did? What if Guillermo Del Toro's Beauty and the Beast was made? In 2011, Guillermo del Toro was tapped by Warner Brothers to produce their own live-action adaptation of Beauty and the Beast. Now, this wasn't really all that surprising to hear at the time, considering that Alice in Wonderland had just made a ton of money for Disney, and various studios had already announced their own takes on beloved fairy tales, such as Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and Jack and the Beanstalk. Interestingly, Warner Brothers were actually not the only studio investing their time in doing a live-action Beauty and the Beast movie at this point, as CBS Films were also releasing their own Beauty and the Beast movie called Beastly, which starred Alex Pettyfer and Vanessa Hudgens that same year. Also, the CW did their own Beauty and the Beast TV show around this point, and Disney also re-released their own version in theaters. So yes, Beauty and the Beast fever was very high in the early 2010s, to say the least. Del Toro was a huge fan of Beauty and the Beast. He even called the 1946 version, La Belle et la Bête, one of the most magical movies he's ever seen. He said Beauty and the Beast was a landmark for his career, a holy grail for his career. He had not only high hopes of getting it made, but he wanted it to be one of his best movies. He was taking this movie very, very seriously. Now, signs of his love for this type of romance can actually be traced back to his Hellboy movies with Hellboy and Liz, as well as Abe Sapien and Princess Noala. So he knew all about, unconventional romances like this, so he was a natural fit. Now, Del Toro would actually end up changing his mind on just being the producer, and was officially announced as both director and producer in early 2012. Andrew Davies would end up being hired to be the screenwriter, being well known for his work on Bridget Jones' Diary, and his future work on Netflix's House of Cards. In the summer of 2011, it was confirmed that former Harry Potter star Emma Watson had been approached to play Beauty, and she accepted the part. Del Toro was absolutely ecstatic to have Emma Watson on board. He said he thought Emma was the perfect age for the role, but more importantly, the perfect actress for it. Now, while the Beast was never officially cast as far as I know, I imagine that Del Toro would have gone with his regular collaborator Doug Jones. He's been in a number of Del Toro's movies as different creatures, and the two are actually best friends in real life, so he just seems like a natural fit. In the spring of 2011, Del Toro approached the film's producers, Denise Denovi and Alison Greenspan, about his concept, which apparently would have been inspired by Robin McKinley's Beauty, a retelling of the story of Beauty and the Beast. In this version, our main character's name is actually Honor, but as a child, she starts going by the name Beauty as a nickname. However, her sisters grow up to be quote-unquote prettier than she is. Now, one day, their father goes off back to town, and on his way there, he stops at the Beast Castle, and he plucks a rose for Beauty as she had requested, since roses don't grow where they live. However, the Beast then captures him for stealing, and he's only allowed to return home on the condition that he sends one of his daughters to replace him. Now, since Beauty is the only sister without a husband or fiance, she decides to go against her family's wishes and volunteers. Now, despite these bad circumstances, she actually begins to enjoy her time at the castle, and the Beast falls in love with her. He even proposes marriage to her several times. However, she just can't bring herself to reciprocate due to, well, the fact he's not human for one thing, but he also threatened to imprison her father and did imprison her. Now, despite this, she does begin unraveling the Beast's past, and she learns more about him, which brings them closer together. And Beast actually gives her a mirror that she can use to see her family, and she discovers that her sister Grace is actually going into a loveless marriage with a man just for financial stability, being completely oblivious to the fact that her true love, Robert, is actually alive and not lost at sea anymore like she thought. So the Beast actually allows her to go and fix this, and Beauty promises to return in 1 week's time. But unfortunately, as you might expect, her family convinces her not to return, but she does change her mind when she has a terrible nightmare about him dying. She returns to his castle to check on him and finds that he is indeed dead of a heartbreak. So she realizes that she does love him, and this actually ends the curse and brings him back to life as a prince. Del Toro initially had very little time to focus on this movie, as he was already in the filming stages of Pacific Rim, which was set to be released in the spring of 2013. Del Toro was juggling these two movies as well as The Haunted Mansion as best as he could. However, production was slowing down because supposedly Warner Brothers weren't exactly a big fan of his ideas. First of all, it was going to be a very expensive production that Del Toro was adamant would have to be a period piece. He was going to call it Beauty or Beast instead of Beauty and the Beast, and he wanted to keep the curse itself a mystery, like it was in La Belle et la Bête. He wanted to entrance the audience in the romance as well as the mystery of the Beast's backstory, and I imagine that his characters would have been very different compared to other versions. However, as Del Toro stated in 2018, Beauty doesn't have to be a perfect princess, and she doesn't have to look like a perfume commercial model. Those are his words, not mine. He seemingly therefore would have wanted his Beauty to be more quirky and put her looks more to the background. He also stated that the Beast doesn't need to transform into a quote-unquote boring fucking prince to be loved. He wanted his take to be based on his belief that love isn't about transformation or even attractiveness, but about acceptance and understanding. Sadly, as beautiful as that movie sounds, the production was anything but beautiful. It was extremely quiet, with barely any information surfacing in the next couple of years. In 2014, it was confirmed that Del Toro had actually stepped down once again as director, and things would just get worse from there, as Disney were looking to do their own remake of Beauty and the Beast, and they also wanted Emma Watson to play their lead. And in the end, with Warner Brothers repeatedly turning down their scripts, their version went into development hell and was ultimately canceled altogether. Del Toro, when he realized the movie wasn't going to get made, he gave Emma Watson his blessing to switch over to the Disney version instead, and the rest is history. He would supposedly make The Shape of Water to fill the gap that this movie left behind, and I honestly believe that. There's a lot of elements to The Shape of Water that feel like Beauty and the Beast to me, except with nautical themes. So that was Guillermo Del Toro's Beauty and the Beast, and now, stop me if you've heard this one before, but it's yet another Guillermo Del Toro movie I wish had gotten made. I know, how predictable, I know. But, like, hear me out. I don't think that the 2017 Beauty and the Beast that we got from Disney is that bad. I think that Emma Watson was well thought of as the lead. I don't think she did the best job in the Disney version, I'm sorry to say, but I don't think that's her fault. I think that she would have fit a lot better in a smaller scale Beauty and the Beast movie. Like, I think the fact that it was as big as it was really to her detriment. I don't think she was the right lead for the Disney version, but for the Del Toro version, she sounds perfect in my opinion. You know, because she does have that quirky, spunky side that Del Toro clearly wanted in, you know, his lead Belle, or in this case, Beauty. And as far as Doug Jones is the Beast goes, I know that there's an age gap between him and Emma Watson, so it might not have been him. But if they had gone with him, I mean, that guy, he is so damn good at his creatures. He really is. He's so good. He was really good as the fish man in The Shape of Water, or the Asset as they called him. He was so good, and he didn't even have any dialogue, and he was so good in that movie. And the movies where he has dialogue, he's so goddamn amazing. So it's like, you know, if they had gone with Doug Jones, he would have done amazing as the Beast. And now I don't think I think they would have gone with him, but I don't know for sure, just because, as I said, you know, Emma Watson was in her 20s, and I think Doug Jones was in his 50s by that point. So it probably wouldn't have been him. It probably wouldn't have been him as the prince anyway. He probably would have been the Beast, and then they would have switched him out for the prince. And that's assuming they even went with a prince, because from the sound of it, Del Toro didn't want to do that part, honestly. It sounds like he kind of wanted to keep the Beast, if you ask me. Like, the way he talked about a boring fucking prince, like, he literally said that. He literally said boring fucking prince, like, you know, in front of a large crowd on a microphone. I'm not...
You know, it doesn't have to turn into a boring fucking...
It sounds like he didn't really want to do the transformation. I think if he had it his way, the Beast would stay a Beast by the end of the movie and would not turn into a prince. And that might have raised a lot of questions, I admit. But so did The Shape of Water. And, you know, I know The Shape of Water gets a lot of criticism for the decisions they make, you know, having the two end up in a relationship. I've heard so many people say they didn't need it to be a romance, but I think it works really well because it's a romance. And obviously this would be a lot tamer than The Shape of Water. Like, I don't think this would be rated R or anything like that, like The Shape of Water was. But I do think that it would have been something amazing. This is going to be controversial. I think it would be better than the Disney version. I honestly do. Because the Disney version, it's just too similar to the animated one. They don't take nearly enough risks, and the risks they take, I don't think, pay off. That's just my opinion. Like, if people have asked me what I think is like one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen, it's that. Like, seriously, I was so disappointed in the live action Beauty and the Beast that Disney did. And honestly, you know, hindsight being what it is, this version probably would have been better because it would have been so different, you know? And people wanted the Disney version to be different, but they also didn't. And I think that's just because it was Disney that was making it. So they had expectations. But if it was Warner Brothers making it, there would be no such expectations. They could do their own thing. Or, you know, Del Toro in this case could do his own thing. And I think Del Toro had a vision that I personally would have really liked to see. The way he talks about romance, about how it's more about acceptance and understanding than about, you know, beauty and attractiveness. I think that's really beautiful. Like, this guy really understands romance, in my opinion. The romances in his movies are really good. I always like his romance. And it felt like he was training for years to do a Beauty and the Beast movie. Like, as I said, the Hellboy movies prove that he, you know, could do the normal-looking girl, or, well, Noelle wasn't normal-looking. You get what I mean? Like, the kind of oddball couples that, like, sound silly on paper, but he really makes them work, or sound strange. And I think that he would have really made this work, honestly. And I know some guys are going to say in the comments, oh, what about Ron Perlman as Hellboy? Or as the Beast, I should say. No, because he was even older than Doug Jones, and I don't think he would do it. I think it would be weird, especially because he had played the Beast before in a Beauty and the Beast TV show in the 90s, and that might have made people think it was in the same universe. I think that Del Toro would have wanted to go with somebody new, and I think he probably would have gone with Doug Jones, maybe anyway. He just seems like the most realistic choice for Del Toro to make, in my opinion. So in short, I think that Guillermo Del Toro's Beauty and the Beast is a huge missed opportunity. Warner Bros. Could have had a real winner on their hands here. If it came out around the same time as the Disney version, that would have sucked. Like, I'm sorry to say, if that had happened, this movie would have gotten buried, probably. At least financial-wise. Like, I think critic-wise, people would probably lean more towards this one than the Disney one. And it's interesting to think, if this had been made, Emma Watson would not have been in the remake that Disney did, which makes you wonder who it would have been. Let me know in the comments down below who you think would have played Belle in the live-action Disney version if it wasn't Emma Watson. I would love to hear about that. Overall, Emma Watson, really good as Beauty, in my opinion, or would have been better in this version than the Disney version. She was fine in the Disney version, but I think she would have done better in this version. And whoever they went for with the Beast, Del Toro has a good eye for casting, aside from Charlie Hunnam in Pacific Rim. Sorry, not sorry. It could have been Charlie Hunnam, actually, as the Beast, now that I think about it. Who knows who the Beast would have been, but he really does seem to have a really good eye for casting, and if it had been Doug Jones, even though there's an age gap, he would have knocked it out of the park. So overall, huge missed opportunity of a movie, really wish it had been made. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of Guillermo Del Toro's Beauty and the Beast. Would you have preferred it to Disney's, or are you glad that this movie got canceled? I'd love to hear all about it. Please let me know some casting choices you would have for if you were doing a Beauty and the Beast movie. That would be interesting to hear some of you guys say. Also, give me more what-if recommendations in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up, and share with all of your friends and all your various social media platforms. And I'll see all of you in the next video.